So very excited to wrap up the first stage of these one-liners, looking at the ghPython nodes. This will be the basic, and of course it's ending with control flow, if, else, and elif statements, loops, the for loops, the while loop with a break, what functions are, and then finally setting this up for Chapter 2, Python tricks, looking at lambdas functions. So that's going to be exciting. So let's jump right in. Take this over here, zoom into LF. Nice little, I think I've actually made these all, have I done it? Yes, I've made them all objects. So the basic set is here. It's kind of ugly to look at because I haven't differentiated anything, but these are all available on my GitHub account through my Patreon, along with these files. And you don't have to look at any of the other files. This one's loops 14, which basically contains everything from the first test square script all the way through to the ones we're going to cover right now. So open it up, double click, get your Python editor, and you can see that I've hard coded into here. If x is less than 3 and I brought it in as an integer, maybe you're just left it as I brought it as an integer, and it's going to print as an if statement, a will be big, the word big. So let's bring that down to 0, or bring it up over top of 3, and there it's big. And it's elif. You can do as many elif statements as you want, and you're setting it equivalent to 3. Checking if it's equivalent to 3. If that's true, then it'll run medium. Else, it will run small. So that's it. Nice and simple. Shut her down and move on to the next one. For loops, really nice example of it. Let's open it up, make it big scale, and check it out. You can write them yourself if you want. Very simple script, but you'll notice that I wanted to output this as a list, so you have to build a blank list. And of course, C# is going to be much more particular, and I guess it's hard typed, or what's it called? It's very clear on what types of data structures things are and declaring them and assigning them. So if you don't assign an A as an M and then append it with those I points through XYZ, and of course XYZ can be anything. I've left these open as a ghdoc object, so it can take a text, which just happens to be the default in that panel. This Boolean can be switched, and your float can be switched as being read as a float. And then I'm appending that, so not only putting it to output using the print function, I've actually brought it out and used the little trick of setting up a blank list. If you're thinking C, you're going to think more in arrays, and we'll just keep going with that. The while and break, you got to be careful with this one. So as we open this one up, nice and fast and simple. Let me make it a little larger. You can see what's happening here, and I'll shrink this one down. Here we go. And be careful on that last one. Do not uncomment. So don't uncomment this one, because you will freeze up your computer and then have to reopen it again. But if you take a look initially, I'm creating an empty list. I'm initializing x at 0. I could have tried bringing it in, but I thought I'd just initialize it at 0. While it's less than 3, it will print x, and then it has to add. If you don't do the added function, it will just keep going through this while loop and crash on you. But you can see exactly, again, I've appended an A list, so I can bring it to output here, 0 on one simple flattened branch. And then there's no need to flatten it. It's just one branch with 3 items. And then the other one is, you'll see as I go through, the while loop has a break tool. So even if you have an infinite loop set up that while true, which will always be true, you can break out of it with that keyword break. So learn how to use that. And I'm printing hello world once I break out the proof that it broke out of it. And then do not uncomment this, because you've got while true, which is always true. You will continue. And in continuing, it would just simply run the code again and again and again. And that will print a dead code, and your code will crash. So be careful on that. So that's pretty simple to get the gist of that. Functions are nice and easy. Here's probably the best example of a function ever, but I do want you to notice a little thing I have to do here. Oops. What I've done is I've brought in a number x, and I've set up a definition. And one thing I needed to do was declare a float for this to work. If I did not declare a as an output as a float, it would just default to an integer, I believe, and it wouldn't have the decimal places, which is the whole point of doing this. It's called a function increase. You start with a x, which I can make parametric, and you see how it changes everything, and it just matches top and bottom. And you've got a nice percentage of increase percent, and it's x plus x times the percent divided by 100, and then the print shows exactly what's happening here, not just the increase x5, so 95
Let's bring it up so we can actually think of it past $100. 300, obviously, with that interest of 5% is going to go up to this amount. And then I wanted you to see the increase. A equals the increase of that will output it, but the type, it wants to bring out a float type, but if you don't pre-assign the A to a float, it's just going to come out as an integer. So something to think about as you get into functions. Great example. And then really where we wrap up the basics, and that was the whole point, is to get us thinking one-lining script, and here it is, LAMBDAS function, which does it all in one line, is what this book basically sticks with. You are going to run in and simply print lambda, which deals with the sense of x is going to be open. So it doesn't matter what you assign x to here. It doesn't care. It doesn't change anything. This x is irrelevant. This x is just the lambda x that wants to run. They're functions without names to be used for single use, and the lambda has a list of arguments. And the arguments you can see going into here, you set up an x, so this doesn't even have to be connected. It does absolutely nothing. There's no point to that. But what it will do is then take the expression, which would be x, which is initially set at 0, and it will add z to it. But it will make x the z. Sorry, it will move z back into where x needs to be, and then add whatever you have in y. So as I change y, you can see that changes, and it's coming out as a float, which is nice. And then I can also set up here as well. And I think it's because I have a type hint. I can't remember. No, I left it as a ghdoc, and it's running as a. And let me check z, what kind of type hint I have on that. I guess I could just hover here. You would tell me what it is. No, it's a ghObject, so it's defaulting to float. But this is something I want you to really think about as you get in the lambda function. X is empty. It's open. It's irrelevant. You can't override the lambda function with this X coming in as something to say do something to it. It won't do that. It's saying whatever X is, I'm going to put this into it. So I've got to put the 4 in as Z. If I do that, then I can start playing with the function, and I certainly can have effects with it because the parameter Y is affecting it as well. Very nice to visualize this and finally wrap my head around lambdas. And as we go into Python tricks in chapter 2, we're going to take this to kind of an intermediate basic level. I'm going to call basic intermediate, then we'll get to intermediate, then we'll go to intermediate advanced, then we'll go to advanced. And it's going to be pretty exciting. So enjoy it while it lasts. This is the script that I'll be posting online. It's the one that you want to get a hold of. It's nice and simple. It covers the basics of ghPython. Nice things to get your head around. I'll just group them all in the groups, and we'll save this one right here, group. I not only will save this whole thing as this tool save, I'm also going to save it as control loops. We'll call it 15, and we'll call it master basic. And in being master basic, yeah, we'll leave it all capitalized. Master basic, save, that'll be the function that you want to drag off of GitHub or Patreon once you get access to that. And then you can also use all of those user objects, which has been saved here. And I just have to, instead of here going into my special folders components, let's leave that off. Let's go into File, Special Folders, User Objects. Oh, if I could ever strike it on where I needed to go. User objects are nice. I have them tucked in here all the way through, and one-liner user objects, there they all are as of to date. I think all the way down to the 15. Actually, I think what I've been doing lately is not putting them in there. I'll have to move them in there. I brought them all over to my desktop. So the one-liners are here. This should be where you have everything. And actually, I have the new ones I've made, and I have the old ones in the other section. So I've kind of got to pull these all back into the same string. Anyway, I'll get it organized. I'll get it up, and I hope you enjoy it. So have fun. Get into the one-liners and get into Lambda tools for ghPython nodes.